Back in the kitchen today, and I've got an awesome guest who makes delicious things. Karen from Asian Inspirations. How are you?
I'm very well, Lena. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I can see that you've got some things here that are going to make my husband very happy, so I better learn how to do what you're making here today.
Yes, laksa. We're going to make a Thai laksa, but actually the highlight of this is the laksa. It's a really quick recipe, 10 minutes, at most 15 if you need to wash the pot, and a pork belly that goes on top of that.
Oh, fantastic. So it sounds like actually I could get him to make it for me when I've got my feet up.
Yes.
All right, what's the first step?
Wonderful idea. Okay, so first step, we're going to talk about the pork belly because I think that's the most, it's an important step to achieve this. So we've got the pork belly here, which we've salted overnight.
Excellent.
So just get your butcher to score the skin and well salted, and be generous with the salt. The salt draws up the moisture.
Absolutely.
Sits in the fridge for overnight.
And actually uncovered, because that helps to dehydrate it.
Yes, correct. So uncovered, just as is, in the fridge and overnight, and then bring it out the next morning, let it sit in room temperature for an hour, and then into a very a medium oven, 160 degrees for 3 hours.
So we actually don't touch it for that whole 3 hours, which is why we've got one that has been cooking for 3 hours.
That has been cooking for 3 hours. So what we do is from here we wrap to protect the meat, because it is going to be cooking for 3 hours, into a low oven at 160 for 3 hours, and this is what you get. But as I peel the foil down, you'll see a really yummy juice.
All of that juice, all of that pork liquid.
And when you put it into the fridge and it congeals, you get a yummy pork snack.
And that's actually where most gelatin comes from. So that's why it solidifies and firms up, and it still remains translucent, but boy, is that tasty.
It's very tasty.
So this 1 kilo pork belly shrinks down to about that size. We've sort of lost about a third of the size.
Yes.
We've got the liquid. The alf oil is protecting the meat so it maintains its moisture.
Yeah.
And so at that point, we put it back in the oven.
Well, actually, I would drain the liquid and keep that set aside for the snack, and then I put the foil back in, and then crank up the oven to 240, and in this goes for about half an hour. But watch it, because 240 is quite an aggressive heat, and you watch it turn to bubble wrap.
Excellent. So all of the salt that was in that pork belly and all of the fat really sort of responds to that heat, bubbles up, and that's when you get crispy pork crackling. So this is the stage that we want it for our crispy pork laksa.
That's right. So
excellent.
We can get started with a really jiffy laksa recipe.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Elena. So in this pot, I'm just going to start put on the flame here. So in a medium to medium pot, in goes 3/4 cups of water.
Oh, okay.
So half a jar of this laksa paste, and I'm going to share with you a tip which I use in my fridge at home, which is when you have an open jar of something, quite often I put this in the fridge, and quite often it's forgotten. And before you know it, there's mold around. So what you do is do another serve of laksa, or turn it upside down and leave it like that in the fridge. So that creates its own vacuum seal, and you don't get the mold around that.
So you get even more longevity out of one jar.
Correct. So we're going to put this right at the bottom there.
I don't know if it'd last that long in my house, actually.
Just do a serve
but a
of
very
4.
good tip for you if you're doing that at home.
And can I trouble you for the coconut milk? So while it's coming to a simmer or to a boil, that's all it is. That's the laksa sauce. We've prepared some noodles.
I can pass you those.
Thank you. So we're using a thin Hokkien noodle today, and just cook it according to the instructions in the back of the pack. So there's probably as much as maybe a little bit more, maybe, just to top it up, looking better. Thank you.
Excellent.
We're using these French beans, and all we're doing is cutting to little discs as finely as we can. And then the other key ingredient that we'll have is egg. Now, I think egg's underrated, but the flavor of the yolk when it goes into any dish just adds a whole new level, doesn't it?
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
So if you're having trouble, following this recipe, log on to My Market Kitchen website
or Asian Inspirations.
Asian Inspirations. So we're an education platform where we create an awareness. The idea is creating an awareness of ingredients that we usually don't use very often or not commonly used in cuisines, and it hopefully inspires you to cook a lot more Asian at home.
And all of these ingredients are becoming more and more readily available, so you don't have to go to a specialty store anymore.
Although you can.
You definitely can.
Yes.
But there's all of these delicious things are becoming more and more available. We just want to make sure that everyone knows what to do with them.
Correct. So log on to www.asianinspirations.com.au or our website, our Facebook page, our Instagram, or our YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. So we're gonna have that. This comes to a boil, and then I think that's it. So pork belly. So this has been this has gone under the grill after the 3-hour roast. Under the grill, 240 degrees for about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour.
Which is pretty much the highest most domestic or home-style ovens and grills will go to. But as you said, keep an eye on it.
Keep an eye on it, because otherwise it pops up pretty quickly.
How gorgeous is that?
So we'll do that now. Fingers crossed that it crackles. You get the crispiness. Okay.
You've been so nervous about this, but you've taken all that time and care and energy.
I know.
Have confidence. Oh yeah.
We like it like that.
This is a restaurant dish. This is something that a lot of people will only eat out because they think it's too difficult. But you've just created the most beautiful laksa
and how
in
long
just a
did
few
it take?
minutes.
Correct. So
not including the pork, which you can do ahead of time.
We can do it ahead of time. I was going to say, if you want to do this a few days earlier, or even to the point of after the 3-hour roast, chuck in a freezer. Thaw it, bring it to room temperature, and then do the grill. It actually works.
Excellent.
But if you want to do a quick version, you can not do a 3-hour roast and just chuck it into, I think, 240 as high as it goes. Well salted piece of pork, and then watch it crackle and roast. By the time after an hour, it's done.
Excellent. So lots of. I need to get a pork mentor. You've just given me so much information.
A pork belly mentor.
Pork belly mentor.
There you go, Elena.
This looks just delightful. Thank you so much for joining us in the kitchen today, Karen, and showing us what a delicious dish can be achieved in just a few minutes. You've got to give this a try at home.